Hi, my name is Ondine, and this is my capstone presentation and my journey with Alexandria House, which is my partner organization. And it's located not too far from Marlborough, maybe 5-10 minutes away, on Alexandria Avenue, which is in the Mid-Wilshire area. Okay, so what is Alexandria House? So Alexandria House is a transitional home for women and children located in Los Angeles, California. And since 1996, Alexandria House has been a community-oriented transitional house and neighborhood center, which is intentionally multicultural, anti-racist, and where the needs of women who are economically poor are central. And I think that this mission statement does a perfect job of describing Alexandria House's leading mission, which is to serve economically poor women and children. And so these are families and women coming from a variety of situations. Some are experiencing homelessness, some are experiencing domestic violence, or maybe something completely different. And so I think the mission statement does a great job of emphasizing that this is the target population, but while still highlighting the relevance and importance of building a genuine community for Alexandria House as an organization. And so Alexandria House serves their residents in a multitude of ways. They provide housing for those in need. They provide childcare, so they have camp in both the summer and the winter. They have tutoring programs. They are working to solve food insecurity in the surrounding community. One example of this is their community fridge, which is on the front lawn and is a donation-based movement where individuals and sometimes larger corporations donate food that is then free for those in the community to take from the fridge and pantry. They provide clothes and household items to residents and those in the community through their very own thrift store, which is free for current residents and low cost for members in the surrounding community. And that only begins to scratch the surface of the breadth and number of services that Alexandria House provides, which is amazing, honestly. And like I sort of mentioned, most of these services are available not only to Alexandria House residents, but any member of the surrounding community, which is something that is so unique about Alexandria House and is once again proof of their commitment to community. So now we'll move to talking a little bit more about my journey specifically with Alexandria House. And so last year at the beginning of all of this, when everyone who is doing a capstone, when all of us first signed up for the class, Miss Wright asked us to think about what kind of organization we wanted to partner with. And she told us that it really could be anything, that it could have been anything from an organization that dealt with voting rights and voting registration to an organization that had to do with the arts and theater. And so when Miss Wright asked us this, I immediately knew that I wanted to work with a nonprofit that served women and children. And so after deciding this and then telling Miss Wright about my decision, she came up with a list of organizations that fit this very broad criteria that I had given her. And during one of our first meetings, where we talked about the differences between each organization that Miss Wright had sort of selected, something that she really emphasized and something that then really stood out to me, which is why I've talked about it so much already, was Alexandria House's clear presence in their surrounding community. And specifically, what Miss Wright explained to me was that unlike a lot of other organizations who serve those coming from potentially dangerous or unhealthy circumstances, Alexandria House doesn't participate in a lot of traditional practices, such as keeping their location a secret or requiring their residents to hand over their cell phones. And instead, they are very known within their community and therefore are an integral part of the vibrant atmosphere of the neighborhood. And this community-oriented attitude was something that really appealed to me. And it was one of the major reasons why I chose to partner with Alexandria House. And so personally, I could feel this sense of community pretty much immediately. In the summer, I really just sort of jumped in, and probably like a day or two after meeting some of the people who worked at Alexandria House for the first time, I joined a youth group meeting. And the turnaround for this was very fast. It was so fast that I didn't even get the chance to tell Miss Wright that I was going to go volunteer for the first time. So when I showed up to one of our weekly meetings, she was explaining the process, and I got to say, guess what? I already started. But the point of this is to say that this sort of jumping in was just one of the many things that proved to me how open and welcoming Alexandria House really is. And in retrospect, it is something that I can especially appreciate, because getting started in this way honestly felt really scary. But I ended up feeling very insanely reassured because of how readily and openly Alexandria House welcomed me into their community. And that was literally just my first day. So you can imagine how I feel about the Alexandria House community now. And so now, in terms of specifics, which I sort of briefly mentioned, I volunteer with the art class, which meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays for about an hour, and it usually caters to kids ages 4 to 12. And I have some pictures here. So the pictures from the art class are the bottom left, which is Jaylene. She's one of the kids who regularly comes to the art class. It's one of her projects. And then the bottom middle picture is they were all doing a big group drawing. And then the top right picture is also from the art class, and they were doing another big group drawing. So I volunteer with the art class, and then I also volunteer with the youth group. So those pictures are the top left and the bottom right. And the youth group meets on Saturdays, and it is a designated space for preteens and younger teens. So those somewhere from 11 to 15 years old. And so, like a lot of young people, including myself, these kids are entering, these kids who are a part of the youth group are entering a transitional phase of their lives where they go from childhood to not really adulthood, but more teenagedom, which is another completely separate transitional phase. And I think we can all agree that being a preteen can be a very hard life chapter. So having this space designated for people at this stage in life felt really important and was something that I so wanted to be a part of, especially as someone who has volunteered with children for a long time, because I felt like I had never seen this designated space or a group made particularly for this like niche audience. So in terms of my capstone project, Miss Wright was really the one who helped me realize what my capstone actually was. And during one of our meetings where we were talking about my volunteer work, I asked Miss Wright, like, what should I do for my capstone? And she looked at me kind of quizzically and told me that I had already done it. And honestly, this was shocking for me because I felt like I hadn't really done anything. But she reminded me that when I started volunteering in the summer, there were around 3 kids, sometimes less, and we usually didn't really have a sort of set plan. But if we did go on any sort of like excursion or adventure, we usually went to the Grove to see the movie. And honestly, this kind of structure was good for this size group because it was just sort of starting out when I joined. But now, in comparison, anywhere from 15 to 20 kids come regularly on Saturdays. And in addition to this, we go on many more excursions and adventures, some of which are a lot farther away. For example, we've been to Chinatown for Lunar New Year, where we watched the Lunar New Year parade and took a walking tour of Chinatown. And because we were having so much fun that day, we decided to stay longer so that we could visit more stores and enjoy a delicious dinner together. And there's actually a picture from that day on the top right on this slide. And so that's just one example of one of the many field trips we've been on. I have some other pictures here. The top middle picture is when we went to the Orange County Pet Expo a couple Saturdays ago. Bottom left picture is when we went to the Alexandria House Walkathon. And then both the top left and bottom right pictures, the kids were blindfolded and we were doing sort of like a bonding activity. And so after Miss Wright reminded me of all of these wonderful and very frequent new experiences that both the youth group and I were participating in, I was able to recognize that I had been a part of this major growth and development of the youth group. And so, like I briefly mentioned before, I believe that the youth group provides the preteens who are a part of it with a space where they can experience new things, build lasting relationships, and be a part of the development of their own community. Something that is so important for this age group and is something that I can personally attest to, as I was a preteen not too long ago. And it's something that I can also easily empathize with, because I can totally understand the experience of feeling sort of forgotten about at this age. And now, in addition, I am so excited to say that this relationship between Alexandria House and Marlborough will continue next year through Brooke Hinkle, who is going to be a senior, as she will now be volunteering with the youth group on Saturdays. And this is something that I'm so excited about, because it means that this new relationship between Marlborough and Alexandria House will be able to develop even further. Next, I would just like to say thank you to all of my mentors at Alexandria House. Thank you so, so much to Michelle, Elena, Stephanie, and both Vickies for supporting me throughout my journey. Your wisdom, your expertise, and your kindness have made such an impact on my experience at Alexandria House. And from the very beginning, you have all been incredible sources of inspiration and motivation. And I seriously cannot thank you enough for all the time and the energy that you have all invested in my journey at Alexandria House, because the opportunities that you have provided me with, I know have been invaluable parts of my growth as both a student and a human being. And I just want to say that your mentorships have truly been transformative forces in my life, and I can't thank you all enough for everything that you've done for me. So now, as we sort of wrap this video up, I want to say a big thank you to Miss Wright, because this has truly been one of the most important experiences of my life. And I can't emphasize enough how valuable this whole project and volunteer experience has been, because doing real work like this is absolutely so important. It's so important to immerse yourself in this way. And it's so much different than traditional classroom learning, because like I said, it allows for this sort of immersion that the classroom just can't really offer. And so if anyone watching this video has the opportunity to do a capstone, I highly, highly recommend it, because it is genuinely one of the most meaningful things that I have ever done in both my Marlborough career and my life at this point. And so, yeah, I just want to say thank you. And if anyone wants to check Alexandria House out, I have all of their social medias linked here, and then their website underneath their logo. So thank you so much for watching.